since we were talking about Michael Knowles, and yes, Demian says, I want Michael Knowles in jail. Reverend Wright is saying he should be in jail. You know what? I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with it, but I am not going to call on government officials to use the authority of the government to put him in there. But I am going to say he's a piece of garbage, and that if you in any way interact with this guy without reminding him he's a piece of garbage, and if you know anybody who appreciates his commentary and you don't refer to them as a piece of garbage,
make them feel bad.
Yes, they should be shunned. He is a perfect candidate to be shunned in public. I don't think you should physically abuse him. Well, look, I'm not your parent, but I would not advocate violence. But I would advocate embarrassment, shunning, public shaming, making his life uncomfortable.
Just eradicating him from public life. I think if you could, whatever you do short of
Michael Knowlesism needs to be eradicated from public life. Let's put it that way. Let's give Michael Knowles a chance to speak.
So the question then becomes, the more honest.
Oh, pause it. We should also say, like, here he is defending himself. He's changed his outfits lately. Have you noticed this? He's a little bit more like trying to be a little more pastoral. And, you got to feel bad for this guy because, they're at the Daily Wire commissary down there in Tennessee. I don't know. Maybe he's in L.A. I'm not sure. But I imagine they're all down in Tennessee or something. And he sees Matt Walsh getting all the special treatment. Like, you were the guy who pioneered our new transphobia initiative, and he's going in there going like, how can I get in on this? We can't do all the racist stuff I wanted to do because Candace is the one who's supposed to run interference on that.
Yeah,
it's tough. He is Nashville based,
but at least he gets to play dress up, which we know. He's a theater kid, so this is what he's always wanted.
So the question then becomes, the more honest liberals have said, okay, well, what does it mean then to eradicate transgenderism from public life? And it's a good question. I'm glad people are talking about that. That was the point of my speech. What would it mean?
You know what all communicators do is they call for something, and the point that they want is, why are people? What does that mean? I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you at this speech.
Yes, no, the great speeches
tune
in
into
history.
My show. All the great speeches. You all
fight them on the beaches.
Yeah.
The Emancipation Proclamation. All left their audience very confused about what
they were just asking questions.
No. The fight them on the beaches. That was a mistake because people understood what that meant.
Mm-hmm.
You got to say, fight them on the sandy plateaus. What did I mean by that? Well, you're going to have to tune into my podcast.
Well, that's the reason I said it.
To find out. No, what this guy is doing that's not what he wanted. The most charitable interpretation of what he wanted was, I went out there to build my brand by saying something that was incendiary that I could reasonably attempt to claim I didn't say. And that's what I did. Mm-hmm. That's his most charitable view. Not like I wanted to get a conversation started, because God knows at CPAC, there's no conversation about how transphobic we should be.
Yeah.
Continue.
Transgenderism from public life. And it's a good question. I'm glad people are talking about that. That was the point of my speech. What would it mean to eradicate the preposterous ideology of transgenderism from public life at every level? I'll tell you, but first I got to clear the air a little bit. When you want to clear the air, you got to check out Rabbit Air. Go check out Rabbit Air today. Put simply...
Wait, what?
Whoa!
Wait, that was it for the ad?
Yeah, that was it.
Wait, what?
Go check out Rabbit.
What is Rabbit Air?
Rabbit Air is a purifier.
Oh my God.
Air purifiers.
Clean your home with Rabbit Air system today.
Yeah.
It's like a drive-by.
Oh my God.
If I was Rabbit Air, I'd be like, can you Can you finish the like sort of parsing of your call for an eradication of a class of people? Can you
So wait a
save
second.
our ad?
So when I said I want to eradicate trans people, I mean, or a transgender ideology, I meant eradicate dust, like in your apartment
With
this,
rabbit air.
with this air purifier.
It's a $600 purifier.
Folks, let me just say that if you have a problem with too little transphobia in your home, Rabbit Air will clear that up for you, and make sure to create the perfect amount to balance between transphobia and have you found yourself saying something incendiary to hundreds of people in an arena that can broadcast around the world? Well, we can take care of that.
At
Yes.
Rabbit Air, we believe that you shouldn't have to sacrifice style for comfort, or choose our artist series featuring images from Claude Monet, Vincent van Gogh, and original designs by Rabbit Air's creative team.
For your air purifier?
Damn.
Yeah.
Was
These
that-
are
is that-
$600 air purifier.
Did that really just happen?
I want a Monet then.
Wow.
Seamless advertising.
I mean, look, I do ads on this show, but in the middle of I'm going to clear the air from that genocidal call I made.
Yeah.
I want to just clear the air, and this product is going to help you believe that I was not being genocidal.
No, I've seen this kind of ad before, but I've seen it in like the context of like a video essay about why Netflix is on the decline, as opposed to eradicating transgenderism.
All right, well, now that we've got that out of the way, let's go.
Go check out Rabbit Air today. Put simply,
oh my God.
eradicating transgenderism from public life would mean behaving
Pause
as
it for 1
Americans.
second. I'm just trying to think of the guys at Rabbit Air going like, hey, listen, I know this is a little bit of a stretch, but is there any way that you can say, let Rabbit Air clear the air and then say eradicating transgender people? Like, is there any way we can get that into like one clause? I know, I want to give you room to maneuver, but is there any way we can get that one clause? And Michael's like, I can do it. Yeah, go back. Watch this, folks. This is called
He's
a
a
broadcast pro.
Yeah, professional.
Would mean behaving as American society.
No.
did.
Go back. I want to see the pro work before we get to the kicker.
Clear the air a little bit. When you want to clear the air, you got to check out Rabbit Air. Go check out Rabbit Air today. Oh my God. Put simply, eradicating transgenderism from public
Nailed
life
it.
would mean
Mel Brooks.
Nailed it. 3 words. Put simply, eradicating. You did it, my man.
Woo!
The best. The best.
eradicating transgenderism from public life would mean behaving as American society did before, say, 2015. Before around 2015,
This is so stupid.
we did not have any acceptance of transgenderism in public life.
We had more.
And it started
Before
to,
then.
to be introduced into public life around 2015 when Barack Obama instituted transgender military policies, and some liberals in North Carolina decided to invite men into the women's bathroom and pass all sorts of weird.
But like this isn't how even political change happens. Like the people themselves are becoming more and more accepting over my entire life of trans people, more
Yeah.
accepting. And subsequently Obama's like, okay, like this is another of these walls falling. Like it's not Obama's like, all right, this is going to start a whole round of social engineering off that's going to change people's attitudes towards trans. You're looking down the wrong end of the telescope.
And the bathroom bill came out, that was what, 2013, 2014 in North Carolina or whatever? I mean, good to know for trans people. You did not exist apparently before 2015.
You know, this is why like they speak to an evangelical audience that like has been very sheltered, I think, from a lot of society's progress on these issues. And so they can act genuinely like, oh yeah, this all started in 2015 when like I said, like going back to like the mid 2000s, I feel like that was when this was started.
Yeah, and let alone historical records about like, you know, clinics in Europe during the Nazi era and,
Right.
and things that were burned. Like,
Let's be clear too on what he's talking about.
he's
Now,
saying
of
the
course-
acceptance. I
Yeah, the
understand.
acceptance.
but-
Maybe he should do some
Didn't start in
history in
2015.
Renee Richards, who was a professional tennis player, but back when I was a kid. But also, for those of you who are too young to know, in 2016, the Justice Department, Education Department under the Obama administration sent a letter in response to lawsuits filed by conservatives in North Carolina who wanted to prevent trans kids from going into and trans people going into the bathroom based upon their gender. And the Obama administration just simply sent a letter from the Education Department and Department of Justice saying, you should know that Title IX, the law that prohibits sex-based discrimination in federally funded education programs, like if your college receives federal funds or your school or whatever it is, you have to abide by non-discriminatory practices. That's it. Just be aware of that. It was not a question of law. It's just like this is the auspices in which you get this money. And conservatives did this. Now, why did conservatives do this? File these lawsuits in 2015, the year before the 2016 election, a year and a half after marriage equality became law of the land. Why did they start going after trans people at that time? I already answered the question. Because they lost when it came to marriage equality, and all of the cats and dogs raining down from above, the marriage, the clerk in Kentucky who tried to uphold, prevent people from getting married, public opinion turned against her. Even within the Republican Party, people realized, like, wait, cats and dogs aren't coming from the sky. I guess it really doesn't matter. I guess my marriage is not ruined because gay people can get married. And so what did they do? We need to find another marginal group to activate our fundamentalist base. Hello, trans people. Let's start filing some lawsuits. So he's lying about this. He's saying, well, I want to go back to 2015. 2015 was before they activated their fundamentalist base against trans people. Go ahead.
Ordinances about bathrooms. Then later on, we got the Bostock decision. The Bostock decision rewrote civil rights law to say that there was a protection for gender identity in there. Obviously, there is not one, but that came years later. So we're only talking about the last 7-8 years or so. We've had transgenderism in public life. And my point is...
Laverne Cox, 2014, she was on the cover of Time for her role in Orange is the New Black.
That's not possible. That couldn't have happened because there was such adamant outcry against transgender people in public life.
Gore Vidal had a novel in the 70s or 80s, Myra Breckinridge.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, not that that's maybe the best representation,
not that
but
accepted, yeah.
Let me tell you something. When Renee Richards played tennis, people had mutton chops, like out to here.
Yeah.
That's how long ago it was.
You can't deal with transgenderism only by saying we're not going to trans the kids. I think there are a lot of conservatives who say, okay, look, if transgender adults, if a man wants to identify as a woman, he's an adult, that's fine. Just don't do it to the kids. That's missing the point. I actually think this is what motivated these news outlets to lie about what I said. They obviously couldn't deal with the argument I was making. If they could, they would have done that.
This is the only real
They couldn't do that. So they had to lie. They had to rewrite what I said until I scared them at the prospect of libel laws, and then they had to change their headlines, even though there's still libelous content in the articles. Why? Because the left believed that it had already won the transgender issue, just like it wins every other social issue. Just about. What happens, and I've talked about this on the show for weeks now, and I actually mentioned it in my CPAC speech. What happens is the libs introduce some crazy idea, and then the conservatives briefly stand firm. They briefly oppose it. Then the liberals totally stand firm. and then the conservatives cave.
Pause it. Now, you know what? He's right. We've seen this with things like slavery. We've seen this with things like women's right to vote. We've seen this like with black people's right to vote. We've seen this with marriage equality. On and on and on. As people get rights and there's emancipation and we no longer have to be subject to blue laws in most states anyways.